Greetings, this is Mpoki Thompson from Mwananchi Digital. Today we have the great presence of Kabanga Nickel. We have the presence of the CEO, Mr. Showalter, and the country manager, Mr. Busunzu. Now we'll talk about the current trending news here in Tanzania, but also internationally. The recent investment from BHP in Kabanga Nickel. But we'll also talk about so much more. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm quite sure the country wants to know the plans that are in place after the recent investment from BHP. So can you just tell us, the investment from BHP has come at a time when there is a global demand for metal. Mm-hmm. And Kabanga stands, it has a plethora of the resource. Mm-hmm. How did that factor into BHP's investment from your own perspective?
Mm-hmm. No, thank you, and thank you to everyone here today. It's a pleasure to have the chance to present and provide more information on Kabanga. It's something we're extremely excited. We're thrilled to be able to make this announcement with BHP this week. But I think to go back to your initial question, there are two important parts to this. Number one, the Kabanga nickel deposit. Tanzania has been blessed and endowed with one of the highest grade, largest sources of high grade nickel. And so this is something that has been not easily accessed historically, so it's been sitting in a remote location. So there's two things that have happened. Number one, we're not just miners, and our proposition to government and what we've presented to government and partnered with them on is a combination of both mining and refining. So, and this is a dramatically different value proposition than previous proposals for Kabanga. Previous proposals wanted to take the concentrate out of the country and send it to smelters and refineries in other parts of the world where they would benefit. And we've come to the government and said, we're going to do this completely differently. We're going to do all the full beneficiation, all the refining, and we're going to do all of that in Tanzania. So the cost of shipping it around the world isn't incurred, makes the project more valuable, and the economics accrue. The full value of that refined metal stays in Tanzania. And it's every country's strategic imperative to be able to fully value add, given the capability. And we provide the technological capability to do that. The second part is the timing. You're seeing a massively rapid transition in the global economy from combustible engines to electric vehicles. And one of the major constraints in that process is the input of the metals that go into the batteries. And the demand curve for nickel, cobalt is going to be near quadrupling in the near term. So the auto manufacturers, they need the inputs of these strategic metals. So it makes Kabanga exceptional because there's a long lead time to mining projects. And Kabanga is what we classify as development ready. We're in a position where we've negotiated with the government over the past year. We have the special mining license in place now. It was granted in October. We have a fully environmentally permitted project. And what that does is that it makes it very easy for a partner like BHP to come in and partner, because then they see, okay, Tanzanians are serious about unlocking this economic resource, and there's a very immediate impact because they can come in. And to the question on BHP, I mean, we're just, we couldn't be more excited to be bringing someone of that caliber, the largest natural resource company in the world. And I think it's a testament specifically to Tanzania and the policies of the current administration and to Her Excellency that has been receptive to investors like BHP coming back into Africa. So we're really excited. Thanks for having us, and I can get Ben to further comment, or we can go into more questions.
Yeah. So I would like to just have a bit of an understanding on doing the value addition here locally. Mm-hmm. In terms of costs, how much does that save, considering how it used to be done in the past now that you want, all the processing to be done here in Tanzania? Yeah. So how much cost are you saving?
Mm-hmm. Well, benchmarking it against what the previous project would have been doing. So if you look at what they were intending to do, they would have had to have taken it from Kabanga, built the infrastructure to get it all the way to the coast, to Dar, to the port. They would have had to upgrade the port. They would have to put that on major ships, ship a big heavy concentrate, load all the way to Canada, is where they intended to do it, put it on rail in Canada, get it to smelters in Canada, and then the refineries were in Norway. So then they were going to ship additionally refined material or smelted material to Norway. So the cost of that transport, you're probably losing 30 to 40% of the overall value of the contained metal. So that's why with our hydrometallurgical capabilities to do that here in Tanzania, that's automatically a cost saving that accrues to the people of Tanzania, to all the economic components of how Tanzania will benefit from this, from taxes, royalties, but also being able to sell the product at the highest maximized cost. And that's where the tax will achieve the highest possible application. So, but I guess specifically to your question, I would say there's probably at least a 30+% savings from beneficiating locally versus the previous plans for the project.
Okay. Can we put a figure to that? Roughly.
In terms of a total number, that would be hard because we'd have to
okay,
know their
we'll
previous
sort that
plans.
out a bit later. So the investment from BHP, has it accelerated the production of nickel from Kabanga? Because I'm quite sure you had a strategy on how you're going to do the production process. Now that there's a company that has invested a certain amount, has it accelerated your plans? And also, was this investment envisioned? Is this something that you had in-house, Kabanga Nickel, worked towards? Were you looking forward to it, or did it just happen out of the blue? You just wanted to understand on the negotiation part.
Yeah, I think we identified Kabanga, probably 2 years ago. We identified it as the type of ore body that we thought we could unlock with our technology. We look for these stranded, high-grade, EV critical metals, and so it's something we targeted. And once we started engaging with government, we brought through a very different proposition where we said we can adhere to the government negotiating team's model of equitable sharing of benefits. So very much on the back of the Barrack negotiations, the principles of benefit sharing that were established through that construct. We were kind of the next engagement with government. So the government negotiating team led by Minister Kabudi and the governor, we spent a lot of time with them, and these were very, very good, proactive, effective negotiations. And so what we constructed was we would come in, we would do an 84-16 partnership with the government of Tanzania. We have formed that joint venture locally, which is Tembo Nickel. And so we have been funding that since we signed the framework agreement in January. So our investors, our capital has all been going into that joint venture. So to your other point, we have been busy on the ground. So we commenced this project as soon as we signed the framework agreement, and then we're further able to expand the development, having gotten the SML in October. But we are very busy on the ground. We have a relocation program that we've been engaging with the local community on. We have a lot of heavy equipment on the ground, commencing the pre-development work. We've been doing site preparation, camp upgrade. There's a drilling program for one of the refining feasibility study work streams. So there's actually a lot that we've been doing. So we have been developing the project very actively, and then having BHP come in as a partner. It's very important they're coming in as a partner to our structure. So the Tembo Nickel project that we have set up with government, they're now going to be an additional partner in that local joint venture. And so what that does is that shows a demonstration that what we've designed with government has been fully supported by BHP, because they're coming into the exact design and principles of economic sharing that we have already agreed with the government through the framework agreement, which is our master legal construct.
Okay, so Mr. Busunzu, I attended one Clubhouse audio space room where you mentioned that yes, $50 million has been committed, but then it's going to be a little bit of a process until the money is actually signed off. When do you expect to actually receive that amount? Because that will determine when the groundwork actually starts.
Okay. So first of all, thank you very much for actually having us here. As you've mentioned, I was in the clubhouse, and through the discussion I came to realize there is more that Tanzanians would love to actually hear from us. So we'll be doing a lot more of this to engage, discuss, and make sure that all Tanzanians understand what's Kabanga nickel, what's Tembo nickel, and what we are actually about to actually have an impact in this country. Now, coming back into your question, as per our press release, the first tranche of money is available. 40 million directly to our operation in Gara, and 10 million to the technology that Chris was actually talking about, the argument technology. The second tranche of money is expected to be released within 6 months. And of course that after finalization on a couple of other follow-up issues that we need to finalize with BHP. So we expect that within the 6 months we should be having all the processes completed and finalized and have the second 50 million issued.
Okay, so the first 50 million is readily available?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, in the transaction between BHP and Kabanga, there is a clause which states that they might be able to invest beyond 100 million if certain milestones are achieved. Maybe can you just give us a bit of a highlight on what those milestones are? Because it might be in terms of, return on investment. And so what does that look like? And what will their stake be? Because with the 100 million, I believe they'll have a 17 point something percentage. Now, if they decide to invest more, what percentage are you as Kabanga willing to part away with to investors moving forward?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be something we'll engage and negotiate with them over this next 6-month period. So the size of the project, just to clarify, this is a $1.3 billion project. So this is phase one of the investment and development capital. So there's going to be multiple other investments as part of the capital structure for this project. And with the commitment of the first funding in place, there'll be negotiations on how structurally can we bring their investment in. And we need to introduce them to government. We need to set up the legal structures of how they would come in. So as government is a partner, we need to bring government into those discussions as well. So there's going to be some pretty straightforward commercial discussions on a potential pathway that we can agree on where other additional investment capital will come in a series of tranches. And so that's what we need to focus on in the negotiations with the government now. But there's the full intent with their capability, with their balance sheet and the size of that company. They're $165 billion market cap. They have the full capability to support us and bring in the full amount of capital required for this project. And I think getting them in on the first 100 and then bringing them in to sit down with us and structure and plan all this out with government, there'll be other announcements that you'll be seeing in the future.
Yeah, maybe if I can add as well. I mean, having BHP on board, of course, they're actually bringing money, but not only the money. I mean, BHP being the number one largest mining company in the world, they'll bring along the skills as well as the experience in mining. So we will actually be getting a lot more benefit having them as partners to ensure that we get our project up and running. So this is actually, something that we can actually put it out there saying that we are now confident that our project should be able to actually start and commence in terms of the project construction and development, and be able to deliver the first refined nickel in Tanzania in the next few months.
Okay. You stated that Kabanga, you've had close collaborations with the government. Now we had a reshuffle. Reshuffle of the ministry. Now Minister Kabudi no longer holds the docket. I just want to understand, what is your engagement with the government moving forward? Have you already re-established relations with the current dockets moving forward? Because again, BHP, one of the concerns, that the reason was why they departed from Africa was, they termed it as a tough jurisdictions, which in part reflects the legislations that are in the country. Now, I just want to have an overall understanding on how you engage with the government on the levels that you do so.
Well, the way we commenced the engagement was, as I said, very much under the construct of the government negotiating team. So that was our liaison point, and that was the formal correspondence that we had, all negotiations were with that team, led by Mr. Kabudi and the governor. And so currently right now, that is still a mechanism in place. So we still do engage with the government negotiating team. However, as the project commences, there's obviously a lot of engagement that's expanding now into the operational relationship with the Mining Commission, with the Minister of Mines. Importantly, the Minister of Mines has been extremely supportive to us as part of this project. So at the high level, any additional very high level negotiating we need to do will be through the mechanism of the GNT, so that still is in place. And then there's other levels of engagement that we're very active on right now, all the way from the support of the Minister of Mines, the Mining Commission, all the way down to the Executive Secretary. And then also we spend a lot of time in community engagement with the Regional Commissioner, the District Commissioner, and then the local community. So we try to have a real broad spectrum of engagement as appropriate for all levels of government. But the big commercial discussions take place through the government negotiating team.
Okay, so what are the current plans in place to meet the legal requirement for local content in relation to that, now when it comes to the local content?
Yeah, so Tembo Nickel actually is fully compliant with the local content legislation. So having the legislation is one part, but the most important part to us is actually ensuring Tanzania is actually benefiting from the start of the operation, from the construction phase to the start of the operation. So we will actually be putting up systems and processes to ensure that all the opportunities that will be available for Tanzanians to take part from the construction phase to the development of the mine will be shared and ensuring that they get that opportunity. Of course, for the mine to start, there will be some specific skills, technical skills that might not necessarily be available in country, but for whatever that can actually be found with the mining industry being in Tanzania for quite a number of years now, we will definitely be able to find a lot more skills and people can be able to actually work with us. So we will actually ensure that the participation of Tanzanians from the start of the operation is given priority in that sense. I don't know if you want to add.
Well, just one more point. When you look at increased economic opportunity and development rates, one of the biggest multiplier effects is the implementation of new technology. And what we're going to be doing is bringing in highly skilled jobs. The hydromet refinery, we're going to deploy quite a bit of time and effort, training and really teaching the operation of that refinery to local Tanzanians. So there's a big multiplier effect when we bring in not just, we'll have construction, we'll have, a lot of labor required, but we are deploying and bringing in a technology that will be really bestowing upon the local operation. So those are highly skilled jobs that people will be trained up to be part of. And we have a much bigger vision with the government of the initial refining will be for Kabanga, but we intend to be able to provide refining for multiple other mining operations in Tanzania and also regionally as part of the vision of this government to be really the epicenter of activity in East Africa. We think we can assist in that vision to become kind of a hydromet beneficiation hub for East Africa.
Okay, so in line with that, in terms of the multiplier effect on the benefit, apart from the skilled labor that you'll be requiring from Tanzanians, how about the surrounding communities around Kabanga? How will they benefit from the project?
Well, I think our first step of engagement with local community is number one, educating them and making them understand the timeline of the project. There is going to be a resettlement program, and as part of the resettlement program, we will not only be resettling the local community, but we're going to be providing economic enhancement and also alternative housing. So we're going to be bringing in the highest standard to the International Finance Corporation standards of resettlement, relocation, and ensuring that they have economic benefit. We, as part of the local content, we're going to have to adhere to ensuring that we are providing every possible opportunity for the local community to be involved in the project. There's a pretty, the process of tendering and procurement is pretty rigid, and so that really that ensures that we're going to be maximizing the benefit to the local community, to local companies. And I think just when you bring a project in of this size to a region that has very little economic activity, we will become the most important project. So when it comes to the tax base, when it comes to local levies, this is going to be the engine for a whole new phase of economic development in Western Tanzania and the Kagera region.
Okay, so I'm quite sure people would want to know, other than the strategies, the plans that are already in place, what is the realistic expected date of the first export, and what value would that represent?
Timeline-wise, what we've targeted is really to have the first full production of refined metal coming out of the refinery in 2025. That will be roughly that's going to be generating at peak performance. When we hit max producing capacity, we will be approximately 300 million into the government from that project per annum. So this is going to be a very large operation. It's going to be a combination of levies, royalties, additional taxes, income tax. But that when we hit peak maximum production levels, that will be generating approximately 300 million per annum for the government, which will equate to well over
700 billion shillings.
And the other main benefit for this is, and this actually came up in some of our discussions this week, when you look at mining projects, the importance of the local community is also the duration of the mining project. So you can have some very short life of mines where they come in, they produce for 10 years, and then the mine's done. This is a 33-plus year life of mine, and given the additional exploration potential that we've identified and that exists in the Kabanga region and within our SML, we think we can continue to further extend that. Now, that's a very important fact because we're bringing not just a brief interlude of economic activity into the Kagera region. This is going to be a very long-term economic contributor to the entire region. Also, when you look at the refinery, there's no shelf life on the refinery. Kabanga runs out of material, we're going to be replacing it with other mines input. So that's going to be something that has a much longer trajectory as well. And importantly, when you look at the Kahama area, why we've chosen that area, Barrick Gold has closed down their Buzwagi gold mine. So that was a gold mine, it was a life of mine.
11 years.
And so you have a life of mine, so one of Barrick's main 3 mines only had about a 10, 11 year life. So they have all the infrastructure in place there, you have all the skilled labor, but that activity is now left. So they've gone through a series of retrenchments. So what we've done with government, I think this is a credit to government also realizing that this was a very nice solution, is to put the refinery in a centralized location, but put it in the Kahama area and utilize some of the infrastructure at Buzwagi, because now we can maintain that economic activity. So you have jobs going out from one mine, but look, if we bring the refinery there, we can take advantage of all that labor that's been retrenched from a period. And there's water, there's tailings, there's an airport, there's rail siding. So it's a very nice solution for us to benefit from one company winding down operations, and then we can replace that. So that's also, because then we bring economic activity not just to Kahama, but also Kabanga. So these are essentially two projects that are coming online simultaneously.
Okay, so now let's talk about the green energy transition and Kabanga's focus to expand your portfolio on producing commodities that are considered to be, eco-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
How has climate change impacted the way you operate?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's. I think for us, we bring not only the mining capability but also the refining, and our refining technology has always been driven by replacing some of the older, dirtier processes that really focuses around smelting. So, for instance, smelting takes 95% into the smelter waste rock. So you're melting everything at a very high temperature through smokestacks that release CO2 and SO2. It's a very dirty process, and so the way the world's going, if mining is really going to change course, they need to replace smelting, very importantly. So we refer to smelting as pyrometallurgical processes. We're hydromet, so we use clean, water-based refining, chemical-based refining, and so that is substantially cleaner. We're going to use massively less electricity, and so we're not going to need to to pull the large amount of electricity from the grid that would be required for smelting. So our credentials are going to be quite substantial, and it's something that the international world is actually demanding this now. I think when you look at President Hassan and some of the comments she made at COP26 recently, there's also a commitment from the Tanzanian government that we need to be embracing cleaner, smarter policies, and that's something we're uniquely positioned to do with this Kabanga project. By bringing hydromet in, having much lower energy intensity, we produce 0 SO2, which is very important, and our carbon footprint is going to be a fraction of normal operations. So we can help champion, with our partnership in Tanzania, which should be a phenomenal example of doing clean processing and refining of metals. And so I think that's something that we've always been focused on as a company, and I think this project and our partnership here is just going to be the best possible demonstration of where we can produce clean metal, because the auto manufacturers demand it. If you look at all the big auto companies, they've got a very important deadline by, say, 2025. That's when a lot of their peak electric vehicle production really hits a higher inflection point from their production forecasts. So they need this, and so for us to come online by 2025, it's also a very nice matching, because we are, as I said before, development ready. And they need the nickel, but they want it as clean as possible.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to deliver that.
Okay. So if I may ask, what is your biggest challenge right now with your Tanzanian operations?
I think it's the desire to move as fast as possible. I think we have a lot of aggressive timelines. We want to meet milestones and commitments, and so we're going to want to deploy and really build this mine as rapidly as possible. So I think it's going to be really garnering and bringing as much of that construction activity at as fast a pace as possible. So for us, the biggest challenge now is going to be how fast can we really get busy building this mine. I mean, that's always. I think we look at some of the challenges being some of the supply constraints around the world. I think you see some of the results of COVID, so we want to get ordering long lead items as fast as possible. But I think otherwise, because we've managed most of the major hurdles in terms of the licensing, the permitting, having a partner like BHP, we're really poised to move quite quickly. So challenges, I think it's just that we'd love to build this mine tomorrow if possible. It's going to be the time.
Okay.
The time.
So do you have any recommendations to the Tanzanian government with regards to how maybe the mining sector, the operations could be improved?
I mean, we've definitely, as part of the framework agreement, has addressed a number of things. I think we will still be in consultation with the government and the Minister of Mines on anything that would become difficult for us. We'll engage right away. But the important thing is we have the mechanism to engage through the engagement with government, the G&T level, and the Minister of Mines and the ministry. So when we do hit any challenges, I'm very comfortable with where we are in terms of the communications process. So I think there's some old tax components that we need to discuss with government. I know the extractive industry collectively has a number of issues. Section 56 is still a bit of a challenge for the industry. And then I think there's some other tax components that is unique to when you combine mining and refining that we need to just discuss with government. But I think those are things we'll find solutions to. But I think we will join any forum collectively within the extractive industry if they're looking for any optimization of laws and regulations. But nothing that I would say now is there's no blockage to our project right now.
Okay, perfect. Well, I guess that is a wrap. We're looking forward to see how the project evolves and the far-reaching benefits to Tanzania. Well, you were with me, Mpoki Thompson, for Mwananchi Digital. Until next time.